I go to the same coffee shop every morning. Not because it's the best. Not because it's close. Because it's predictable. Predictability feels safe. Same small wooden tables. Same jazz playlist. Same faint smell of cinnamon and espresso in the air. And every morning at exactly 8:12, I order the same thing. Medium cappuccino. Extra foam. No sugar. I don't talk much. The barista used to try. Big plans today? Busy morning? Cold out there, huh? I smile politely. Keep it short. Routine is easier than connection. One Thursday morning, everything shifted. I stepped up to the counter, opened my mouth to order, and the guy behind the register said, medium cappuccino, extra foam, no sugar. I froze. He wasn't the usual barista. I had never seen him before. He smiled slightly. That's yours, right? I nodded slowly. Yes. He didn't ask for my name. Didn't look at a screen. Just turned and started making it. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe he had worked here before. Maybe the other barista mentioned me. Still, when he handed me the cup, he said something that made my stomach tighten. You look more tired today. I stared at him. How would you know? He shrugged casually. You rub your left eye when you don't sleep well. My chest tightened. He wasn't wrong. But how long had he been watching? I scanned the cafe. It was normal. People typing on laptops. A couple whispering near the window. You work here often? I asked carefully. Sometimes, he said. That answer wasn't an answer. I took my coffee and sat down, but I couldn't focus. Every time I glanced up, he wasn't looking at me, which somehow felt worse. The next morning, I almost didn't go. But routine won. 8:12. He was there again. My coffee was already on the counter. You didn't sleep much, he said softly. I didn't ask how he knew. I didn't want to hear the answer. Do I know you? I asked. He tilted his head slightly. Depends. On what? On whether you remember. A chill ran through me. I'm pretty sure I'd remember you. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. People forget more than they think. The air felt heavier. Have we met? I pressed. Once, he said. When? Years ago. That made no sense. I had lived in this city for only 3 years. Where? I asked. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he leaned slightly closer across the counter. Do you remember the accident? He asked quietly. My heart stopped. What accident? His eyes didn't move from mine. The one you don't talk about. The coffee shop sounds faded. There had been an accident. 5 years ago. Before this city. Before this job. A car. Rain. A late-night drive. Someone had been in the passenger seat. But I never thought about that night. Because I survived. And surviving was enough. I think you have the wrong person, I said quickly. He shook his head. No, he replied softly. I don't. My breathing felt shallow. Who are you? I asked. He studied me carefully. I was there, he said. The world tilted. That's not possible, I whispered. He stepped back. Isn't it? I stood up abruptly. My chair scraped against the floor. People looked over briefly. The cafe looked normal again. Ordinary. Except him. You're mistaken, I insisted. He nodded slowly. Maybe. Then he slid something across the counter. A folded napkin. Take it, he said. My hands felt cold as I picked it up. I unfolded it carefully. 3 words were written inside. You weren't alone. The room felt smaller. I looked up. He was gone. Not in the back. Not in the doorway. Gone. The regular barista stood behind the counter. Ready to order? She asked casually. I stared at her. There was a guy here, I said. She frowned slightly. It's just me today. I turned in a slow circle. The door hadn't opened. No one had left. My cappuccino sat untouched on the table. I looked back at the counter. You sure? I asked. She smiled politely. Are you okay? I walked outside. The air felt too sharp in my lungs. The accident. 5 years ago. The police said the other driver fled. No witnesses. I had hit my head. Memory gaps. You're lucky, they told me. Lucky to be alive. But the passenger seat, it had been pushed back further than I ever kept it. I always told myself it was from the impact. I stood there on the sidewalk, heart racing. In my hand, the napkin trembled slightly. You weren't alone. I slowly turned it over. There was something else written on the back. The time, 8:12. Tomorrow. And for the first time in 5 years, I wasn't sure I wanted to remember. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw headlights in the rain. I heard the sound again. Metal folding in on itself. Glass breaking. The sudden, violent silence afterward. I sat on my couch staring at the napkin. 8:12. Tomorrow. I could just not go. I could break the routine. Find a different coffee shop. Pretend none of this happened. But the problem with pretending is that it only works until something forces you to look directly at what you've avoided. At 8:10 the next morning, I was already outside the cafe. My heart pounded harder than it had in years. The bell above the door rang as I stepped inside. The regular barista was there. Alone. Morning, she smiled. The usual? I looked around carefully. Every table. Every corner. No sign of him. Yes, I said slowly. I stood at the counter instead of sitting down. 8:11. 8:12. Nothing happened. I almost felt foolish. Relief started to creep in. Maybe it had been stress. A hallucination. A panic response triggered by something random. Then I heard it. Not a voice. Not footsteps. My own heartbeat. Too loud. Too fast. The lights flickered. Just once. The air in the room shifted. You came, a voice said softly behind me. I turned slowly. He was standing near the window this time. Calm. Composed. You shouldn't be here, I said. Neither should you, he replied. My throat felt dry. What do you want? I demanded. He studied me for a long moment. I want you to remember. I remember the accident, I said sharply. I survived. The other driver ran. He shook his head gently. That's not what happened. My chest tightened. Stop. You weren't alone, he repeated. The cafe seemed quieter than before, as if no one else could hear us. There was someone in the passenger seat, he continued. Someone you cared about. No, I whispered immediately, but something deep inside me trembled. A fragment of memory. A laugh in the car. A hand reaching toward the radio. A voice saying, slow down. My breathing became uneven. You're lying, I said. I don't lie, he replied calmly. Then who are you? I asked again. He stepped closer. Close enough that I could see the faint scar along his eyebrow. A scar I had seen before. In a photo. 5 years ago. On someone else. You know who I am, he said quietly. The memory cracked open. We weren't alone that night. My younger brother had been in the passenger seat. He wasn't supposed to be. He had insisted on coming. He wanted to talk. We argued about something stupid. I was driving too fast. The rain made the road slick. The truck came out of nowhere. The impact. The spinning. The darkness. When I woke up in the hospital, they told me the other vehicle fled. They never mentioned him. Because I never asked. Because my brain refused to form the question. You died, I whispered. He didn't nod. Didn't confirm. Didn't deny. I tried to wake you, he said softly. But you wouldn't look at me. Tears blurred my vision. That's not possible, I repeated weakly. Grief is, he replied. The room flickered again. I don't understand, I said. You survived, he said gently. But you buried the part of the story that hurt the most. The coffee shop noise returned faintly around us. People typing, cups clinking, as if the world had never paused. You've been living like someone who was alone that night, he said. You weren't. I didn't mean to. My voice broke. I know. He smiled softly now. Not eerie. Not threatening. Familiar. I'm not here to haunt you, he continued. I'm here so you stop punishing yourself without knowing why. My knees felt weak. I didn't even remember you were there, I whispered. You did, he corrected. You just locked it away. Silence stretched between us. I'm sorry, I said finally. He looked at me steadily. I know. The cafe lights steadied. The air felt lighter. He stepped back toward the window. What happens now? I asked desperately. You remember, he said. And then, you live. The word felt heavier than anything else. I don't want to forget again, I whispered. You won't. He gave me one last look. Not angry, not sad, just peaceful. Then someone bumped into me. Sorry, a stranger said. I blinked. He was gone. The window reflected only me. The regular barista called out my order. Medium cappuccino, extra foam, no sugar. I picked it up with shaking hands. As I walked toward the door, I noticed something on the counter. Another napkin. 3 words written in the same handwriting. You're not alone. This time, the message didn't terrify me. Felt like permission. And for the first time in 5 years, I allowed myself to cry for someone I had pretended wasn't there.